My wife convinced me to let her brother crash in our guest room after his divorce. Now my toddler calls him dad and my wife swears it's just a coincidence. I was already sleeping with Rachel from accounting when my wife suggested her brother, Jake, move in with us. The irony isn't lost on me now, sitting in this empty apartment, that I was paranoid about the wrong thing entirely. But let me start where it started, because cheaters always have their reasons, and mine seemed so valid at the time. Sarah and I had been together 8 years, married for 5. Our daughter Emma was 2.5, just starting to string sentences together in that heartbreaking way toddlers do. Sarah had gained weight after the pregnancy, stopped wearing makeup, and lived in yoga pants. I know how that sounds. I know exactly how pathetic and shallow it makes me. But at 34, with Rachel laughing at my jokes at happy hour, touching my arm when she talked, wearing those pencil skirts that Sarah used to wear before Emma, I felt alive again. The first time was after the company Christmas party. Sarah was home with Emma, who had an ear infection. Rachel and I shared an Uber, and when we got to her place, she asked if I wanted to come up for coffee. We both knew there wouldn't be any coffee. Her apartment smelled like vanilla candles and the kind of perfume Sarah stopped buying years ago. Rachel's skin was smooth, unmarked by pregnancy, her stomach flat under my hands. I told myself it was just once. Just this once. But once became twice became weekly. Thursday nights were client dinners. Saturday mornings were gym sessions. I became an expert at deleting texts, clearing browser history, and keeping receipts hidden. Rachel never asked about Sarah. She never asked about Emma. That should have been my first warning sign, but I was too on the attention to notice. Jake moved in 3 months after Rachel and I started our thing. His wife had caught him sexting with some woman from his CrossFit gym, kicked him out, and took him for everything in the divorce. Sarah felt sorry for him. He made a mistake, she said, setting up the guest room with fresh sheets. People deserve second chances. I laughed. Out loud. Sarah thought I was being harsh about her brother, but really, I was laughing at the cosmic joke of it all. Here I was, balls deep in an affair, and my wife was lecturing me about forgiveness while moving a cheater into our home. Jake was everything I wasn't. 6'3", still had all his hair, arms like tree trunks from all that CrossFit. He worked construction, came home sweaty and masculine, while I came home from my office job smelling like coffee and printer toner. Emma loved him immediately. He'd toss her in the air, make her squeal with laughter, and build elaborate block towers that I never had patience for. Uncle Jake. She'd scream when he came home. I'd watch from the couch, laptop open, working late but texting Rachel about our next meetup. The thing about affairs is they make you paranoid about the wrong things. I started noticing how Sarah laughed at Jake's jokes, how she'd cook his favorite meals, how they'd stay up talking after I went to bed. I'd lie there, phone hidden under my pillow in case Rachel texted, listening to their muffled conversation through the floor. The hypocrisy was eating me alive, but I couldn't stop. I was convinced Sarah was falling for Jake while I was actively destroying our marriage with Rachel. 4 months into Jake living with us, I came home early from a client dinner that ended when Rachel got her period and didn't feel like fooling around. The house was quiet. Emma was napping. I found Sarah and Jake in the backyard, sharing a seat closer than siblings should sit. When they saw me, they jumped apart like teenagers caught making out. "You're home early," Sarah said, her face flushed. "Client cancelled," I lied, studying their faces for guilt. "What are you two up to?" "Just talking," Jake said, not meeting my eyes. That night, I confronted Sarah. The accusation came out of nowhere, fueled by my guilt projected onto her. "Are you your brother?" She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Are you insane? He's my brother." "You were all over each other in the backyard." "We were talking about his divorce." "He was crying, you absolute. His ex-wife just got engaged to the CrossFit trainer." I was comforting him. She slept in Emma's room that night. I stayed up scrolling through Rachel's Instagram, looking at her vacation photos from before we met, trying to convince myself I was in love with her. Trying to justify what I was about to lose everything for. The truth is, I wanted Sarah to be cheating. I wanted her to be the villain so I could be the victim. I wanted to walk away from my marriage without being the bad guy. But life doesn't work that way. Life makes you own your choices, every single one of them. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday night client dinner, Rachel told me she loved me. We were in her bed, the sheets still damp with sweat, and she rolled over, traced her finger down my chest, and said those 3 words that should have sent me running. "I love you too," I said, because what else do you say to the woman you're destroying your life for? "When are you going to leave her?" Rachel asked, and there it was. The question I'd been dreading. The question that made it all real. "Soon," I lied. "After Emma's birthday. I don't want to ruin it for her." Emma's birthday was 3 months away. I figured that bought me time to figure things out, to maybe end things with Rachel gradually, to maybe fix things with Sarah. I was an idiot. I was a coward. I was everything I'd always promised myself I'd never become. That night, I came home to find Jake teaching Emma to ride the tricycle I'd bought her but never assembled. She was laughing, her little legs pumping, Jake jogging beside her, ready to catch her if she fell. Sarah was recording it on her phone, tears in her eyes from laughing so hard. "Daddy!" Emma screamed when she saw me, but she didn't get off the bike. She didn't run to me like she used to. "Uncle Jake is teaching me." "That's great, baby," I said, my voice hollow. Sarah looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "You okay? You look tired." "Just work stuff," I said, the lie sliding out so easily it scared me. That night, after everyone was asleep, I stood in Emma's doorway watching her sleep. Her little hand was wrapped around a stuffed elephant Jake had won her at a carnival the weekend I was at a conference with Rachel. On her wall were pictures she'd drawn, stick figures labeled Mama, Emma, Uncle Jake, and in the corner, smaller than the others, Dada. I should have ended it all right then. With Rachel. The lies. The double life. I should have come clean to Sarah, begged for forgiveness, fought for my family. But I didn't. Because admitting to the affair meant admitting I was the villain in my own story. It meant facing the consequences of my choices. It meant possibly losing everything. So I kept lying. I kept meeting Rachel. I kept watching Jake become more of a father to Emma than I was. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I'd figure it out, that no one had to get. I was wrong about everything. The first time Emma called Jake Dada was at her daycare pickup. I'd left work early, surprising everyone by actually showing up for once. The teacher smiled when she saw me, that practiced smile that said she knew exactly what kind of father I was. "Emma, your daddy's here," she called out. Emma looked up from the Play-Doh table, saw me, then looked around, confused. "Where Dada?" "I'm right here, baby," I said, my chest tightening. "No," she said, frustrated in that toddler way. "Dada. Uncle Jake Dada." The teacher's smile faltered. The other parents pretended not to notice. I carried Emma to the car while she screamed for Dada Jake, my face burning with shame. I couldn't even properly own because I was too busy texting Rachel that I'd be late to our hotel meetup. When I confronted Sarah about it that night, she laughed it off. "She's confused. Jake's been picking her up a lot lately since you're always working late. She'll grow out of it." "He shouldn't be picking her up at all. He's not her father." "Well, someone has to do it," Sarah snapped, and there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Not anger. Disappointment. "You've been to exactly 3 pickups in the last 6 months. Jake's been to 40. I've been working to support this family." "No, you've been working to avoid this family." She was right, of course. But being right and being righteous are different things, and I clung to my righteous indignation like a life raft. How dare she defend Jake over me? How dare she let another man parent my child? The hypocrisy was suffocating. Here I was, spending 3 nights a week in another woman's bed, and I was angry that my brother-in-law was being a good uncle. Rachel was getting impatient. She started showing up at my office unannounced. Sending flowers. Leaving voicemails on my work phone that anyone could have heard. The walls were closing in, but I was too deep in the lie to see the exit. "I want to meet her," Rachel said one night, her head on my chest in her apartment that I was now paying half the rent on. "Emma, I want to meet your daughter." "That's not happening." "Why not? If we're going to be together, she needs to know me." "We've talked about this." "No, you've talked about this. You've made excuses. It's been 8 months. When are you leaving her?" 8 months. Had it been that long? Emma was 3 now. Speaking in full sentences. I had conversations with Jake about dinosaurs and trucks while I sat there like a stranger in my own home. "After the holidays," I said. Another lie. Another deadline I'd never meet. Rachel sat up, pulled the sheet around herself. "Which holidays?" "Christmas was last month." "Valentine's Day." "I'll tell her after Valentine's Day." She studied my face, and I saw the moment she stopped believing me. But she nodded, "Lay back down, let me think I'd won." I should have known then that she was planning something. Jake had been living with us for almost a year when I noticed the little things. Sarah's new haircut. The gym membership she'd suddenly started using. The way she hummed in the shower again. The new underwear in the laundry taz and the postpartum practical stuff she'd been wearing. "You look nice," I said one morning, watching her apply lipstick in the bathroom mirror. "Thanks," she said, not looking at me. "Jake's taking Emma to the zoo today. Thought I'd use the free time to run some errands." "In a dress?" She finally looked at me, and her eyes were cold. Is there a problem with me wearing a dress? There wasn't, of course. The problem was that she wasn't wearing it for me. The problem was that I'd noticed. The problem was that I cared, even though I had no right to. That day, I followed her. I called in sick, told Rachel I had a stomach bug, and followed my wife like some private investigator in a bad movie. She went to Target. The grocery store. The bank. Normal errands, just like she said. I felt ridiculous until she stopped at a lawyer's office downtown. She was in there for 2 hours. 2 hours while I sat in my car, watching the door, my phone buzzing with increasingly angry texts from Rachel about missing our lunch date. 2 hours to realize my wife was planning to leave me. The joke was on me, though. She wasn't planning to leave me. She was planning to destroy me. When she came out, she was crying. She sat in her car for 10 minutes, shoulders shaking, before driving home. I waited another hour before following, stopping at a bar to have 3 shots of whiskey and figure out what to do. By the time I got home, dinner was on the table. Jake and Emma were building a puzzle. Sarah was smiling like she hadn't spent the afternoon at a divorce lawyer. "Where were you?" she asked, not accusingly. "Just curious." "Office. Needed to catch up on some things." "On a Saturday?" "Big presentation Monday." She nodded, served my plate, and went back to the kitchen. Jake looked at me across the table, and for the first time, I saw pity in his eyes. He knew. Somehow, he knew everything. After dinner, Emma wanted Jake to read her bedtime story. "Dada Jake, do it," she said when I offered. "I'm your Dada," I said, more forcefully than I meant to. Emma looked confused, then upset. "No. You Daddy. Uncle Jake is Dada. They're the same thing, baby." "No." She was getting worked up now, that pre-tantrum energy building. "Dada is who loves me. You're just Daddy. Just Daddy." In her 3-year-old mind, she'd created a hierarchy of fathers, and I was at the bottom. Jake swooped in, picked her up. "Come on, princess. Let's read about dragons." She immediately calmed, snuggling into his chest. Sarah wouldn't look at me. I stood there in the hallway, watching another man carry my daughter to bed, listening to her giggle as he did the voices for all the characters. That night, I almost told Sarah everything. Almost confessed about Rachel, about the affair, about the apartment I was helping pay for. Almost begged for forgiveness. Almost fought for my family. Instead, I texted Rachel that I loved her and went to sleep on the couch, telling Sarah my back. 3 days later, everything exploded. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Rachel always wore this red dress on Tuesdays that made me NT. I was at my desk, looking at hotel reservations for Thursday, when Sarah walked into my office. With Emma. And Jake. My secretary tried to stop them, but Sarah brushed past her like she owned the place. Which, technically, she did. Half of it, anyway. "Daddy." Emma squealed, though her hand was firmly in Jake's. "Sarah? What are you doing here? We need to talk." "I'm working." "No," she said, and her voice was steel. "You're not." That's when Rachel walked in. Because of course she did. The universe has a sense of humor like that. She stopped dead when she saw Sarah. Sarah turned, took in the red dress, the familiar way Rachel had been about to enter my office, and I watched my wife's face transform from suspicious to knowing to devastated to furious in the span of 3 seconds. "You must be Rachel," Sarah said, her voice deadly calm. Rachel looked at me, waiting for me to say something. To deny it. To explain. To do anything other than sit there like a caught child. "Mama, who's that?" Emma asked, pointing at Rachel. "Nobody important, baby," Sarah said, never taking her eyes off me. "Just somebody Daddy works with." "Is she why Daddy's never home?" Emma asked, with that innocent brutality only children possess. The office had gone silent. Everyone was watching through the glass walls of my office. My career, my marriage, my reputation, all crumbling in real time. "We should talk about this at home," I managed. "No," Sarah said. "We're done talking. I just came to serve you these." She pulled papers from her purse. Divorce papers. She'd had them drawn up and ready, just waiting for confirmation of what she already knew. "Sarah, please. And these. More papers. Custody arrangement. You get every other weekend, supervised." "Supervised? That's ridiculous." "Is it? What's Emma's favorite color? What's her teacher's name? What's she allergic to?" I couldn't answer any of them. Jake shifted uncomfortably, Emma playing with his watch. "That's what I thought," Sarah said. She turned to Rachel. "He's all yours. Though you should know, he'll do the same to you. They always do." She walked out, taking Emma and Jake with her. Emma waved bye-bye over Jake's shoulder, happy and oblivious. The last thing I heard was her asking Jake if they could get ice cream. Rachel stood there for a moment, looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You weren't ever going to leave her," she said. "Not a question." "Rachel. You weren't ever going to leave her, and I've been wasting my time on a coward." She left too. Within an hour, HR was at my desk. By the end of the day, I was packing my office. Turns out, having an affair with a subordinate and having your wife serve divorce papers in the middle of the office is grounds for termination. I went home to an empty house. Sarah had taken Emma to her mother's. Jake's stuff was gone. There was a note on the counter: "Your things are in the garage. Have them out by Friday." I sat in Emma's room, looking at her drawings on the wall. There was a new one, probably from that morning. A house with 3 people in front of it. Mama, Emma, and Dada. I wasn't even in the picture anymore. The custody hearing was Sarah's lawyer had everything: Credit card statements from hotels, the lease agreement for Rachel's apartment with my signature, text messages Rachel had screenshots of and sent to Sarah in a fit of rage after I'd ghosted her, timestamps showing I was at Rachel's when I said I was at work. They even had a statement from Emma's daycare teacher about how she didn't recognize me as her father anymore. My lawyer, who was charging me $400 an hour I couldn't afford anymore, suggested I take the deal. Every other weekend, supervised for the first 6 months. Child support that would eat half my unemployment checks. Alimony for 3 years. The house went to Sarah. The car too. I got my clothes, my laptop, and the contents of my home office. It could be worse, my lawyer said. She could have pushed for no visitation at all. The supervised visits were at a center that smelled like industrial disinfectant and broken dreams. Emma would cry when Sarah dropped her off, reaching for Jake, who always seemed to be driving. She'd spend the 2 hours asking when she could go home, when Jake was coming, and why Mama was sad all the time. I'm your Dada, I'd tell her, offering her toys from the communal bin that had been touched by 1,000 other broken families. No, she'd say, matter of fact in that brutal toddler way. You're the daddy who went away. 3 months into the visits, she stopped crying when Sarah dropped her off. She also stopped talking to me. She'd sit at the little table, coloring silently while I tried to engage her in conversation about school, about her friends, about anything. Emma, baby, please talk to Daddy. Mama says I don't have to if I don't want to. Do you not want to? She looked up at me then, and her eyes were Sarah's eyes, full of disappointment I'd put there. You make Mama cry, she said. Jake says real men don't make women cry. Jake. Always Jake. He'd moved back in after the divorce was final. Just to help with Emma, Sarah told me when she had to disclose it for the custody arrangement. But I knew better. I saw the way he looked at her. The way she smiled again. 6 months later, they were engaged. We wanted you to hear it from us, Sarah said over the phone. Before Emma mentions it. You're marrying your brother? Stepbrother, she corrected. Jake is my stepbrother. Our parents married when I was 15 and he was 17. We're not related. 15 years. 15 years, she'd never mentioned that detail. 15 years of calling him her brother, and he was her stepbrother the whole time. You lied to me. I never lied. I said he was my brother. He is. Legally. Just like you never lied when you said you were at work. You were. Just also inside your secretary. This is different. You're right. It is. Jake and I fell in love after you destroyed our marriage. You fell in love while you were supposed to be in love with me. She was right, but being right didn't make it less. They got married on what would have been our 7th anniversary. Emma was the flower girl. She called Jake Daddy in the wedding video Sarah's mother accidentally sent me. Rachel reached out once, 6 months after everything exploded. She was getting married to someone from her new job. She wanted closure. I loved you, she said over coffee at a Starbucks far from both our offices. I loved you too, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was ever true. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me. You loved having a secret. You loved feeling wanted. But you never loved me. If you had, you would have chosen me. She showed me her engagement ring. It was bigger than the one I'd given Sarah. Her fiancé was older, divorced himself, but honest about it from the start. He has kids, too, she said. 2 boys. They call me Miss Rachel now, but after the wedding, they'll call me Mom. Isn't that funny? I'm going to be the stepmother I always judged. I wanted to hate her for finding happiness. I wanted to rage about the unfairness of it all. But sitting there, unemployed, living in a studio apartment, seeing my daughter 4 days a month while another man raised her, I couldn't muster the energy. The last supervised visit ended with Emma asking if she could stop coming. Don't you want to see Daddy? The supervisor asked gently. Emma looked at me, then at the supervisor. He's not my real daddy anymore. Jake is. He adopted me. That's not true, I said, panic rising. I'm your father. I'll always be your father. But Sarah's lawyer called that night. Jake wanted to adopt Emma. They'd petition the court for termination of my parental rights based on abandonment and failure to maintain a relationship with the child. I haven't abandoned her. I see her every other weekend. When's the last time she stayed overnight with you? When's the last time you took her to a doctor's appointment? Attended a school event? She doesn't even know your address. All true. All my fault. All consequences of the choices I made when I thought I was invincible. The adoption hearing is next month. My lawyer says I can fight it, but it'll cost money I don't have for a battle I'll probably lose. Emma wants it. She drew a picture for the judge, her new family. Mama, Daddy, Jake, and soon to be Jake's last name. I'm not even a ghost in her life anymore. I'm nothing. Sarah sent me a message last week. A photo of Emma's 4th birthday party. She's laughing, covered in cake, sitting on Jake's shoulders. They look like a real family. The family I had in away for Tuesday, our Ed dresses, and Thursday hotel room, and the validation of a woman who saw me as an escape route, not a destination. She's happy, Sarah wrote. That's all that matters now. She's right. Emma is happy. Happier without me than she ever was with me. And that's the punishment that fits the crime, knowing that my absence is a gift to the daughter I claimed to love but never showed up for. I still drive by the house sometimes. Our house. Their house now. There's a swing set in the backyard that Jake built. Emma's drawings in the window have 4 people now: Mama, Daddy, Emma, and a baby. Sarah's pregnant. Jake's baby. A child who will grow up with the father I should have been. Rachel was wrong about one thing. Sarah said I'd do the same to her, but I won't. Not because I've changed or learned or grown. But because I have nothing left to give anyone. No wife to cheat on. No daughter to disappoint. No family to destroy. Just me, in this studio apartment, with supervised visit reports and court documents and a laptop full of photos of a life I demolished one Tuesday at a time. The saddest part? I still remember the exact shade of red of that dress. I remember the hotel room numbers. I remember the lies I told and the ones I believed. I remember everything about destroying my life except the moment I decided my family wasn't worth fighting the temptation. Emma starts kindergarten next year. The information came through my lawyer, not Sarah. She'll write Jake's name on her emergency contact forms. She'll draw pictures of her family that don't include me. She'll learn to write her new last name, forgetting she ever had mine. Tomorrow would have been my 8th wedding anniversary. Rachel's wedding is the same day, because the universe is cruel like that. Jake and Sarah are taking Emma to Disney World. She'll wear mouse ears and ride the teacups and fall asleep in Jake's arms after too much sugar and excitement. And I'll be here, in this apartment that smells like failure and regret, finally understanding that some mistakes don't get second chances. Some choices can't be undone. Some men don't deserve the families they throw away. I lost my daughter the day I decided another woman's attention was worth more than being home for bedtime stories. I just didn't know it would take 2 years for her to figure that out, too. My name is Michael. I was a husband, a father, a man with everything. Now I'm just a cautionary tale, a reminder that you can't build happiness on a foundation of lies, and the family you neglect while chasing excitement will eventually realize they're better off without you. The worst part about losing everything isn't the loneliness or the shame or even the regret. It's knowing that your daughter calling another man daddy isn't a mistake or confusion or something she'll grow out of. It's the first honest thing she's ever said about who showed up for her life.